I do not have control over my calendar. If you want some time, you need to talk to Casey. You have control over your calendars. You have control to decide where you spend your time. It's only taken me 35 years to figure it out. Okay? So hopefully some of you, it'll help. But in all sincerity, you have control. And you need to make sure that when you schedule your calendar, and we're going to talk about how, that you're focused on the things that you need to be focused on to be successful. Big idea. Go small if we want to be successful on the big idea. Go extreme. As an organization, over the last 5 years at least, maybe 7, we've had a compass, right? And on that compass, when it comes to such things as patient satisfaction, we have this conversation about what should the objective be next year. Well, and then we get into this debate about whether it should be 2 points higher or 3 points higher or maybe 1 point higher or 5 points higher than it was the year before. Go big. I'm telling you that if you shoot for 1 or 2 or 3, you're probably going to get half that. If you shoot for 5, you're probably going to get 4. It's just like the story we heard from Elliot today, right? I got 5 pieces of silver, and I turned them into 10. I got 2, I turned them into 4. I got 1, I went low, and I got the shaft. Okay? You have to set the target, and you have to be very specific, and you have to set it aggressively if you're to be successful. It has to be a big idea. Kashada. Brandon, where are you at? Brandon, what was your patient satisfaction in your ER last month? 99.8%. Their satisfaction used to be 12, 15, 18 months ago, 6. 6. So if they'd have shot for 10, in the old paradigm, we'd have been excited, right? No. Go big, or as they say, go home, right? Go big or go home. So when we start talking about and you start thinking about what your one thing is and how you're going to measure your success, because I'm going to ask you to figure that out, and I'm going to ask you to have a conversation with your direct leader, whomever that happens to be. I'm going to ask you to quantify it, and I'm going to ask you to put a timeline on it. And I'm telling you, it better not be 1 or 2 or 3%. It needs to be something big to make a difference. It needs to be something big. When we look at your 5-5-5 objectives, those are big numbers. For Central Louisiana, for Cabrini primarily, that number is $1.8 million a quarter, Nancy. That's a big number. For CTEX, for all 3 entities, that number is 2.5, Sean? 2.8, Sean reminded me. He's going real big. All right? But it's got to be a big objective. It's got to be something that would make a difference in terms of the idea. The other thing is, if you have your focus, then you're free to say no. If you have your focus, then you're free to say no. Then it goes back to that idea that everything's not created equal, right? I'm focused on this. Oh, you want me to do that? I'd be happy to, but I need to stay focused on this. You now give yourself permission to say no. So that when Paul asks you to do something, you can say, I'm focused on my deal. Is that okay, Paul? And you have permission to say no. Okay, I'll give you an example. This one's on me. We were recently asked to look at a partnership with University Health in Shreveport. And while some arguments can be made that that would be a great thing to do, it's not right for us. And it's probably not right for us today. We have other things we need to be focusing on and other places we need to be spending their time. But I was unwilling to say no to start with for political reasons and all kinds of other stuff. And so we spent, another 90 days, Isaac? Batting the ball back and forth. If we'd have said no, be gone, and we'd be on to what we should be focusing on. Everybody probably has one of those examples that you can think of right now. You can say, if I'd have just said no, I wouldn't have been wasting my time on X. And that's a good example. That one's on me. But there are examples like that that are keeping us. And so being able to have the freedom to say no makes a big, big difference. Multitasking, as I said. For some reason, we think that busy people are great multitaskers. Well, first of all, busy people may not be productive people. Okay, you could be very busy, but you're not getting anything done. That's like the example we talked about the other day, earlier when we said the whole morning flew by, you thought you were working hard, and you don't have anything to show for it because you didn't get anything accomplished. So you were busy, but you weren't productive. That's what juggling balls in the air feels like. That's what multitasking feels like, is we're juggling, but we're not getting anything done. Used to be that if people said to you, you're a great multitasker, I would think, man, that's a great compliment. Now I would ask you to think differently. The people who probably are the best at multitasking are not great at multitasking. They're great at getting focused and getting the job done. They're great at getting focused and getting the job. They manage their time. That's what it boils down to. They manage their time better. They don't do 6 things at once. I have a daughter that's like that. Drives me crazy because she's so freaking organized. Do you know those people? I mean, she came home from a 2-week trip, 2.5-week trip to Rome and Greece and Germany. And when she arrived at the airport, we actually went to an LHA event, and she went with us. And she opened her suitcase up, and every piece of clothing was completely folded, just like the day she left. Now, if that had been my bag, it all been thrown in one big garbage bag, right? And been thrown back in that deal. But she's so organized. And because of that, she gets a lot more done. I've watched her in her golf game, in her college career, in her college professional development. She got a lot more done because she was focused and got that done, then went to the next thing and got that done, then went to the next thing and got that done. Now me, I'm still hearing the ding, right? I'm still running to the computer. Ding, ding. So we can't juggle things and be successful. To do 2 things at once is to do neither well. To do 2 things at once is to do neither well. Disciplined life. I think this guy's incredible. He was just smoking pot either several years late or a few years early. I haven't decided. But if you set that aside, 24 now? 23, 24, I think gold medals. Essentially 30 total medals in his career. He knew what his one thing was, right? Swimming. But you know what his really one thing was more than that from a discipline that makes him so great? In the 20 years or so that he has swam? He practiced 7 days a week. Not 6, not 5, 7 days a week. So if you think about it, and they say that to be good at something, really, really good at something, there's research that says you need to do it for 10,000 hours. And they've actually studied different people in different organizations and in different college athletes, professional athletes, et cetera, and they say you have to do it for 10,000 hours. So just think about how many more hours over 20 years every week he practiced than everybody else. And it might be part of the reason to explain why he's so successful. So having that discipline made a difference. They say that in order for a discipline to become a habit, you have to do it how many days? 66, 67. University of London did a research and said, when does a discipline become a habit? Something that you do all the time. 67 days. So as we think about focusing on our one thing, then we need to think about how we schedule our time and how we work to make sure that we make that focus become a habit, and then we will become successful. Here's the one that we laughed about, work-life balance. How many hours do you spend at work a day? 12? 10? I don't want any confession, so don't tell me if it's less than that, okay? But we spend a lot of time at work. How many hours do you spend awake at home? 3 or 4? Maybe if you get